Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Frank Razam Pereira. The Andhra Pradesh Legislative Assembly late on Monday night passed the AP Decentralization and Inclusive Development of All Regions Bill 2020 that intended to give shape to the state government's plan of having three capitals: executive capital in Visakhapatnam, legislative in Amravati, and judicial in Kurnool. The amendments to the bill proposed by the opposition Telugu Desam party were rejected by the House. The cabinet chaired by Reddy approved the proposal on three capital cities aimed at decentralized and inclusive development of all regions of the state. It also approved repealing the Capital Region Development Authority Act and established the Amravati Metropolitan Development Authority. The ruling YSR Congress party has also reportedly decided to scrap the state's upper house as it is miffed with the Legislative Council stalling bills. On this edition of The Big Picture, we will take a closer look at the issue of multiple state capitals. We will also analyze the issue of doing away with the Legislative Council. Joining me on the program today are B.K. Chaturvedi, former Cabinet Secretary. We are also joined by K.V. Prasad, Senior Associate Editor of the Tribune, and S.C. Tripathi, former Principal Secretary, Uttar Pradesh. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. Mr. Chaturvedi, I'd like to start the program with you. Let's try and understand what you make of the idea of having multiple state capitals.
Well, the multiple state capitals, as far as our country is concerned, has a history. In many states, we have a judicial capital separately, so the high courts are there separately, and we have the state of Uttar Pradesh, where it is in Allahabad or Prayagraj, where the capital is in Lucknow. We have the Madhya Pradesh, where it is in Jabalpur, while the capital is Bhopal. It is in Gujarat, where the High Court is in Ahmedabad, and it is Gandhinagar. So it is, as far as the judicial capital is concerned, if you call it the High Court's headquarters, they are quite often quite separate from the main capital. But there is, I can't imagine any other instances of having a judicial capital, having an executive capital, and a legislative capital. I think it's a very bad idea for several reasons. First of all, it is the two functions are very closely connected. The ministers have to be briefed on many of the state assembly questions, and when the assembly is in session, the officers are required all the time for representation of the bills, for briefing the ministers. For them, they are present in the gallery. They are required for many of the issues concerned. So at that point of time, it is difficult. Second, when the assembly is not in session and the ministers are there in office, they quite often need the support of the secretary for decision taking, and then the files have to be moved from one level to the other till finally they reach the minister. Now, if these are at two places, both these functions are going to be very difficult. Thirdly, you see, every instrument is not meant for every eventuality. For example, in case you want to develop the regions, this is not really a proper instrument for it. If you want to develop Vizag as a region or Amravati as a region, I think the best way is to take up its industrial development, to take up investments in that area,
right,
to bring about other policy interventions so that the area's growth takes place. But this is not a method by which you can improve, have policy interventions.
Okay, all right, Mr.
If you are thinking of convenience for the people, again, it is not a very good method, because you can certainly give in the reorganized systems, you can give additional powers to at a regional level, so that decisions get taken fast for that area, if that is what you are thinking.
Okay,
So I
points,
don't
points
think that
taken,
this
Mr.
is like
Chaturvedi.
this
Let me
is
bring
a
in the other panelists also into the picture so that let's hear them out too. Mr. Tripathi, so from an administrative point of view, what are really some of the challenges when you have multiple state capitals?
You see, I agree with Mr. Chaturvedi. In many states, it is for historical reasons that the headquarters of judiciary was at a different place than the headquarters of the government. For example, in UP, first of all, the headquarters of government of Northwest provinces, as UP was known then, was in Agra. Then in 1866, it shifted to Allahabad. So both governor and the High Court shifted to Allahabad. Then 1921, the Legislative Council came into being, and Allahabad was in one corner of Uttar Pradesh. Uttar Pradesh at that time then had grown much more than what Northwest provinces of British had started with. So they shifted the government and legislature to Lucknow. So for historical reason, therefore, Allahabad has the High Court and the legislature and the secretariat is in Lucknow. Same in Madhya Pradesh, central India had Nagpur as headquarters and there were princely states of Gwalior, Indore and Bhopal. So when Madhya Pradesh was carved out, Gwalior, Indore and Bhopal came into Madhya Pradesh and Nagpur went to Maharashtra. So Jabalpur, the High Court came to Jabalpur and government came to Bhopal and some officers went to Indore and Gwalior. So these are historical reasons. Similarly, when Nagpur came to Maharashtra, High Court bench is in Nagpur and the winter session of the legislature takes place in Nagpur. So these are historical reasons, because if something has been there, then people are, it's very difficult to convince them that this office should move, because it becomes integral part of the social, cultural, economic life of the place. Now for starting a new capital, to have three different places, as Mr. Chaturvedi pointed out, judicial capital can be separate, because their work is quite different from the work of secretariat and legislature. But in our parliamentary system of government, it is not a presidential system of government where the executive is separated from the legislature. In a parliamentary system of government, the two are two sides of a coin. So it is difficult. But if they decide, then I would suggest that only the legislature should be at one place. The ministers, after doing the legislature function, they should not stay there. They are part of the executive. They have to be where the secretariat is, because that cannot function if the ministers are at different place. And even otherwise, there is a tendency for everything to gravitate towards the center of power.
Absolutely.
So everything will keep coming there. Even the example of UP that I gave, Lucknow did not have a high court, big high court. It had a small bench. But now Lucknow bench has become quite large. And most of the offices which were in Allahabad and Kanpur, they are also shifting to Lucknow. So wherever the government seat is and the secretariat is, it is an integral one. It cannot be split into various branches, because all of them, today's life is such that many factors, multidimensional, every decision has many aspects.
Sure.
And in decision making, many inputs are required.
Right.
And therefore, all wings of the government have to sit together. In administration, therefore, it becomes difficult. Of course, the development, as has been pointed out, any area, the infrastructure should be developed, investment should be invited, and social and cultural institutions, universities, then of course cultural institutions, etc., they should be established there. The place certainly develops, but every place cannot become a capital.
Absolutely. All right. So let me bring in Mr. K.V. Prasad into the picture. Now we've heard the history of this particular issue. We've heard about some of the challenges as well from some very senior former bureaucrats. But after hearing them out, Mr. Prasad, how would you look at this particular decision? Would you call it a purely political one, or do you believe that there is an issue of development to attach to all of this?
See, the government has come up with this explanation that it wants all-round development of the state, and because if you look at the historical reasons, when it was one Andhra before Telangana came into being, Hyderabad being the state capital, there was always this argument that Hyderabad was developed more and in and around and so on and so forth. But once 2014 the state of Telangana came into being, Andhra was offered to develop an alternate capital. So Amravati was selected by Mr. Naidu on the argument that it is more or less easily accessible from other parts of the Rayalaseema and the coastal Andhra districts. People can come travel less. Today, one argument that's being put forward logistically too, that people who are in the Kurnool or rather the Rayalaseema will have to travel many 100 kilometers more to reach Vizag, the the state executive capital, for executive purposes. Whereas, so this is all but I think it's largely political. I mean, while you can always say, on a policy matter, you can always give that this is a logical explanation for us to look at it. No doubt the state had issues of all-round development are not happening, certain sections claiming or feeling neglected. This has been a constant thing, and it will again re-emerge, because again already hearing stories of Royal Telangana, other areas, Rayalaseema where Kurnool, of course. One more historical aspect is Kurnool was the capital after Madras presidency broke up and Andhra came into real, till it got merged with Telangana and the Hyderabad became the capital. So to that extent, Kurnool has that thing that there was once a state capital before Andhra state, as we saw it later till 2014. So these are the things, but logistically, it looks, as both seasoned and experienced people from bureaucracy have told us, it looks it will turn into more of a difficult to execute things when they actually start rolling out.
Right, absolutely. All right, J. Sai Deepak, advocate of the Supreme Court, joins us now on the program to give us a legal perspective on all of this. J. Sai Deepak, so several petitions have been filed in the High Court challenging the state government's move. How do you see that panning out?
See, strictly speaking, in terms of legality, frankly, I am yet to apply my mind as to what could be the legal challenge to this, except for the fact that certain expectations were set when Amaravati was actually declared as the capital, which led to about 33,000 acres of land being pooled by farmers. And this model itself was hailed as a slightly unorthodox, radical model in a good sense, because as opposed to the state acquiring land by let's say exercising its power of eminent domain and by pressurizing people and farmers, a business plan of sorts or a plan for the city was presented to the farmers, and in a semi-voluntary way, I think the lands were actually pooled. So farmers who actually gave up their lands voluntarily upon a certain expectation having been set up would now certainly have, according to me, a fairly arguable legal cause of action against the repealment of the CRDA Act. That's one. But most importantly, I think there must be at least some provision of the Constitution or some provision of the law which allows people to question this kind of expenditure or this kind of spending of the taxpayers' money. Because I'm still trying to wrap my head around one capital each for one arm of the state. This is almost unheard of. I have not been able to understand what is the meaning of this unless and until the idea is to pamper as many sentiments as possible, and the kind of contracts that will be doled out, the kind of, I don't know what else to say. I think I've said whatever I've had to in terms of what I mean, but I'm just trying to wrap my head around the fact that what is the justification from an administrative standpoint? If, see, Andhra Pradesh after its bifurcation in 2014 is no more as big as it was. If that is the argument that they present, that for a state of that average size, today we'll need to have 3 different capitals, what is the argument going to be tomorrow for Madhya Pradesh, for Uttar Pradesh, for Rajasthan, for Gujarat, for some of the largest states in the country? See, this tyranny of distance is an argument, I'm sorry to say, doesn't make sense. If you really want to present a good administration and its decentralization is truly a motive, then the decentralization must actually take place at the panchayat level, at the municipality level, so that the standard of living and the quality of living at the end of the day is improved. What people don't realize, at least I think whenever everybody speaks of standard of living and quality of living, is that in every advanced jurisdiction, in every advanced country, the quality of living and the standard of living is ultimately decided by the amount of power available to the local municipality and the counties and the shires to improve the quality of living.
Right.
That is something that government should focus on, and the state government is better positioned to focus on these aspects than the central government.
Okay.
So I'm surprised that as opposed to focusing on these doable, practical aspects, we are now thinking of having 3 capitals. What about 4 capitals? What about 5 capitals? What about having 1 capital each for 2 districts? I just don't understand.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about another issue then. Let's talk about the, something else that the YSRCP has spoken about doing away with the Legislative Council. I'm going to ask my panelists to be brief because we've spent quite a bit of time on our opening remarks. Mr. Chaturvedi, your thoughts on doing away with the Legislative Council in Andhra Pradesh?
You see, there are many states we don't have the upper house. So if they don't have the upper house, it is no great shakes. But this argument that we are doing away with it because it is not supporting us because they don't have the majority, I find it completely abhorrent. I think that this is not based on any logic. This is based just out of pique. So, no, you must have a logical explanation for it. Not that there aren't states. There are many states who don't have an upper house. There are states which have an upper house. It's entirely up to it, and many smaller states feel that there's no need for upper house because it may be a bit costly. So that is all right. But I find this argument for it because it is not supporting it, and therefore I'm not having it. I think this is an absurd argument. I think that if they had an argument that this is going to cost us or there are some other reasons for it, I could understand. But this argument, somehow or the other, I'm not able to stomach.
Okay, all right. Mr. Tripathi, coming from one of 6 states that has a bicameral legislature,
Yes.
Your thoughts, the pros and cons of having a bicameral legislature?
Let me take up the pros first. Large states, you see, all states need not have bicameral legislature. There are some states which are fairly small. For example, Sikkim, in terms of population, is less than a district of Uttar Pradesh or Maharashtra, etc. So, unless a state has a large population, diverse population, and there are far-flung areas, I would not recommend every state to have bicameral legislature. But the larger states, they require, and they require also for the fact that just as we have Rajya Sabha, the House of Elders, the upper house, you see, the day-to-day politics in the lower house sometimes can be quite difficult, and upper house gives you an opportunity to sit back and rethink and also give advice. But I would suggest a restructuring of the upper house. You see, the upper house constitution today is still the same as it was in earlier days, just in the starting of the constitution. They have people coming from local bodies and people coming from teaching profession, and then of course the lower house elects people. I would suggest professionals, management professionals, doctors, engineers, scientists, apart from teachers, local bodies only, not only the urban local bodies, the rural local bodies, and some others also, constituencies should be made out. So therefore, there is a need to restructure the upper house so that the wisdom of those people who don't want to enter into the humdrum of day-to-day politics, which has become very difficult, can also become available. So I would not say that all states should have upper house, nor would I say that all states should not have upper house. Larger states, our states are bigger than many countries, most countries in the world. Therefore, there can be some standard that the states with population of more than such and such, maybe 5 crore, 10 crore, they should have upper house, but the upper house should be restructured and it should not be a political body.
Right.
It should be a body of elders, it should be a body of wise men, vice chancellors, eminent doctors, eminent engineers, eminent management people, eminent economists, eminent administrators. They should find a place there so that, after all, the government should get benefit of the wisdom of these people who are left on the sidelines because of the political system that we have got.
Absolutely.
And their input in governance will be very helpful.
Sure. All right. KV Prasad, so has the opposition in Andhra really made, deliberate attempts to stall proceedings in the Legislative Council?
If it has in the last, it's a democratic whatever, if they have the numbers, they have the thing, they're kind of exercising it. But it's ironical that in the state, the Legislative Council was abolished in the 1980s when N.T. Ramarao was the Chief Minister.
Yes.
And why I am saying ironical, Rajshekar Reddy, the father of the current Chief Minister, resurrected it when he came back to power in 2004. So 10 years or 15 years down the line, his son has decided that he probably doesn't need it. I mean, there may be very strong political reasons, there may be very strong, but as both Mr. Chaturvedi and Mr. Tripathi pointed out, unless there are compelling reasons in terms of cost, I mean, the whole argument was built because they said there was a council which was abolished for some other, that was also a political decision at that point of time when Mr. N.T. Ramarao decided to do away. There's a history to it. But not going into that, and I also think Mr. Tripathi's suggestion is very valid that when you have qualified professionals who have given, they could probably come up with some dispassionate advice to the government without really getting into this, getting trapped into party lines.
Politics.
For the betterment and welfare of the state in particular. But of course, it's a decision. If the constitution allows you to do away with it, they're well within the rights.
Okay, all right. So these two issues, J. Sai Deepak, this issue of multiple state capitals and doing away with the Legislative Council, won't such actions be subject to judicial scrutiny?
See, in fact, the suggestion to do away with the upper house of the Legislative Assembly or the Legislative Council must be viewed in light of the other statement that was made, which was with respect to passing this as a money bill if there is further opposition from the Legislative Council. Okay. So it seems as if that the government is actually looking at a basket of options to somehow ram through this particular legislation despite the opposition. And if it should it do so, and should it actually couch this particular bill as let's say a money bill, then I think perhaps they would do well to bear in mind the findings of Justice Chandrachud in the context of what are the requirements of a money bill in the Aadhaar judgment. Okay, and one of the things that Justice Chandrachud also warned against and cautioned against was to actually use the money bill as a route to prevent a discussion or any let's say voice of dissent coming from the Rajya Sabha. Because just as the Rajya Sabha is meant to control certain aspects of legislative business through its exercise of its powers and also so that it can give its own comments and recommendations, the Legislative Council in states is meant to perform a similar role, if not an identical role, to a significant extent. Okay, so if they choose to do so, and if they choose to do away with it altogether, while they could certainly say that this is entirely within the discretion of, or let's say outside the discretion of judicial review, frankly, the scope of 226 is wide enough to accommodate even a challenge to such a decision. Okay, perhaps Article 32 may not be possible, but at least a 226 is possible. So that's one. Point number two is I have to ask myself this simple question. Just as I think, and I completely agree with the other panelists, apart from the role that is played by the Legislative Council, one of the reasons that the Legislative Council is populated even by nominated members is to ensure that you have subject matter experts with expertise in specific domains who are in a position to go beyond the humdrum of daily politics and the humdrum of real politics to focus on what is the manner in which proper policies are implemented and how do we ensure that public good is ultimately delivered through the business of the government. So that is the reason why you have two bodies at the end of the day. Otherwise, if one body is completely elected, why do you need a body which also has a possibility of having nominated people, so that you also have educated people who are not completely blown away by what is known as the popular vote or populism.
Right.
That is the object of an upper house in any parliament, and that's why you need to have a bicameral legislature. So Andhra Pradesh is certainly not one of those states which is small enough to justify the doing away of a certain legislative assembly or legislative council altogether. So I certainly think it is up for judicial review, and if they should they actually approach or adopt this money bill route, they are certainly in for judicial scrutiny according to me.
Okay, all right. Quick closing comments now from all my guests. I've got 2 minutes left on the program, so I'm going to ask you to be brief on the best way forward, starting first with you, Mr. Chaturvedi.
Well, I think the best way forward is to cancel this. They should move for just two, one in Kurnool and other is in Amravati or Vizag, whichever they choose. Amravati perhaps is more central, and develop Vizag through regional investments and development. And as far as second house is concerned, they should continue with second house and the suggestions made by Mr. Tripathi, I am in full agreement with that.
Okay, all right, Mr. Tripathi.
Yes, I think more than two places to be declared capital will be wasteful, and it doesn't serve any purpose. And at least separating the legislative capital from the administrative capital in our scheme of things and our model of governance, which is a parliamentary system, will create lots of problems and unnecessary duplication, wasteful expenditure, problems. So therefore, that should be given up. Let there be only two places. One can be the High Court and other should be where the legislature and the secretariat, the government is. As far as the upper house is concerned, I think Andhra Pradesh is a fairly large state and it has different parts. So the upper house should be, people should be selected for upper house, and there is a nomination facility also in upper house who represent different parts and who bring different skills and different expertise also.
Right.
Maybe lawyers, doctors, engineers, and chartered accountants, economists, teachers, vice chancellors, etc. And also who can really give advice, suggestions, and sometimes their services can be used by the government to improve the system of delivery.
Sure. Mr. Prasad.
Well, I think largely having, as I said, it looks largely political, and one should also analyze the political reasons as to why Mr. Jagan Reddy has gone, because during the campaign he never ever referred to Amravati, and somebody asked him, he said, "You will come to know as we go along." So obviously he had a plan in mind. Probably it is the kind of politics that has been playing out in the state, but then its resources are scarce. As it is, Amravati could not be going through because of the financial issues. So I think again reinvesting and trying to find out money at a time when the state's resources are stretched, it looks like an expenditure that could be avoided.
Okay, all right. And Jay Sai Deepak, close the show for us with your concluding remarks.
If let's say you had a Gandhinagar and Ahmedabad which are actually separated by 27 kilometers, then it makes some kind of sense to actually propose this kind of a suggestion. But if you have an Amaravati and a Vizag which is separated by 364 kilometers and about 8 hours of journey, and you have similar distances, then I'm not exactly sure how is this particular decision meant to facilitate some kind of administrative convenience. So frankly, I think when people take up these kind of political decisions, at the very least they must ask themselves, is this the purpose for which they were elected? Is the business of governance being sacrificed at the altar of populistic sentiments, and that too at the expense of taxpayers' money? That's a question that we must start asking. Because on one hand we keep shouting from the rooftops that the economy is taking a hit and that we are not doing particularly great, and on the other hand this is exactly how we hope to actually revive the economy, by establishing 3 capitals. I don't understand. So I'm certainly not for this particular decision.
Okay, all right. On that note, then we'll call it a wrap on this edition of The Big Picture. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. That's it from me. See you again next time.